And we are back with episode 30. That's right. We're in the dirty 30s of ICOPOD. I'm Bob Collins Jr., who's only 29. And with me is Austin Skinner, who's only 23. 23. 24.
Yeah.
Damn it to hell.
Yeah, and not only is it episode 30, it's the SummerSlam edition.
No, Austin, we're not there yet.
Come on.
I was hoping you'd be like WrestleMania 10. We skipped 8 months worth of shows. We're here, baby.
Right. That is right.
Blake Beverly's challenging for the world title tonight.
Against 1, 2, 3 Kid.
A rematch from that Raw back on July 5th.
Yes, here we are.
But we have made it now 30 episodes in. That includes a couple of pay-per-views, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania 9, and King of the Ring. And then we've got a couple of bonus episodes, I believe 3 to this point, that are available. So it's roughly about 33 episodes that you can check out at this point. So we're... if this was like dog years, we would be dead about 3 times over by now.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. But if we were a cat, we would have only spent like 2 or 3 out of our 9 lives.
Right. So that just means we must continue on.
Right.
And if you want to be part of this continue on journey through the WWF as we started in 93, you can find us on Facebook by typing in ICOPOD and get in contact with us there. Or you can send us an email at icopodcast@gmail.com. And then, hey, we'll have you on sometime. And as we continue on to later episodes, maybe when the Monday Night Wars start up in about 2 years worth of shows, and we do potentially maybe live watches of that if we change up the format, and you want to be on, let's say, an episode of Raw, maybe it's important to you. Maybe there's an episode of a show, I believe they will call it, we'll just say maybe WCW would call it Nitro. Or I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what their creativity is all about. Maybe there's something like that you want to check out. Well, you can have you on. Because right now, like we mentioned in the last episode, doing these note format for 93, 95 is kind of ideal for us. Not a lot of people that I know of are doing this in podcast form with notes and stuff like that. But when we get to Monday Night Wars, it might be a little bit more fun to do live watches. Now, I don't know what we'll do if we get to a point where, let's say, Nitro is 3 hours. But
we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, and hopefully not slip and fall before then. But with that said, guys, please make sure you're sharing us around. Share the love. Share the love of ICOPOD. Share the supplement of ICOPOD, because really the more ears on us, the better, I think. Of course, and also, if there's good discussion on Facebook, tag your friends, get them in on the chat, on the action, because really the more the merrier. I like to see, even with the kind of the spread we've had so far, people seem to be digging what we're doing, and we dig what we do. So hopefully we can get a little bit more people on board the ICOPOD train.
I was hoping you would say the ICOPOD Express, Flex Express.
No, I purposely avoided that phrase.
Nice. Well, and I just want to point out to people that, we're not in just exclusive relationships with you. It's okay to share us around. We're not going to be cheating on you because you'll know where we are.
Right.
It's not like we're going behind your back and sleeping around with anybody else's ears.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, we're still coming home to you. Right.
Like, you met us first. We have a loyalty to you.
Right.
We're not going to get married because we're not really looking for that type of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3.5 million listeners as it is, and we would really want to continue that.
Yeah, we're greedy.
And grow on that, right. I've been able to quit my job. I'm just doing this.
Right. He's actually sitting on...
I've been getting a lot of emails and mail about how I'm in severe debt or something, which is making me think, do they not realize I'm making a lot of money from a podcast about talking about WWF 93? People are always calling me, creditors, are hey, you don't have this money. A place I used to work at have been calling me, hey, how come you haven't been at work lately?
They're haters.
Yeah, and I looked at my bank account, and there's a dash mark next to where I have $400,000. There's a dash. And I don't know what that meant. Is that pending or something? I don't know.
No, it's just because there's like not enough room for zeros. That just
Oh,
infers like 3 zeros. So instead of writing
oh,
3 zeros,
I
they just do the
gotcha.
dash in front of the number.
All right, because I'm gonna have to call somebody because I tried getting like a $2.92 personal pan pizza from Subway, and it was like my card's denied.
Yeah, they're
And then
just
I looked
haters.
at it, and it was like a negative, like a little, and like in math, it was like a negative sign. I don't. It doesn't make any sense because it's been clearing all the money I've been making from this.
Right, and all we've gotten is positive responses. So there's no way that's
Right,
what
like
it is.
Vince McMahon called me,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Pal, your idea about Repo Man and Money Incorporated should have done it.
Right.
Should have done
Yeah,
it.
he's
You're genius."
actually he told me because I spoke with him over email. He told me that they were going to be going back on the network to kind of recut the footage so that Bob's idea can be implemented and kind of written into the books of WWE history. So, not to brag, but yeah, history's unfolding here on ICOPOD.
Yeah, we're changing history. So if you have any ideas, like, hey, maybe you want Glenn Ruth to be the Intercontinental Champion, if you just send me a couple of bucks, I'll fucking make it on air here,
Right.
and then they'll go back in and they'll chop it up. They can do that.
Right.
So Glenn Ruth, if you're listening, head back your Thrasher. Let me know.
Yeah.
And your dreams can come true.
Let me tell you this too. I had one of the headbangers down here at a convention in Orlando, and I walked by his table and didn't even look at him. So,
Nor should you. I mean, you're the star. I mean that.
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I big shotted him. So,
Right. Well, obviously.
right.
I would probably big shot him because I had asked him, hey, I was like, hey man, would you mind doing a written interview? He's like, no, I only do it over the phone. Like, okay, thanks, but fuck you, Glenn.
Well, good that I didn't want it anyway.
Yeah. Like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, I'll Skype you. No.
Speaking of which, what is the deal with nobody wanting to do us a fucking intro?
Well, I haven't really asked. I mean, I haven't asked anybody. I mean, when Rob Bartlett kind of big times you and doesn't respond to you, I feel like that was a really demoralizing time in my life.
Yeah, that was a hard loss right there.
Yeah, and then there was a time too when I went on that, Bret Hart's thing where he'll do whatever, I guess, for like $125, and I was really close to being like, hey, Bret, just fucking do this for us. I'll give you $125. People have given him $125 to promote the British Bulldog into the Hall of Fame petition bullshit, and they try to play it off like, hey, Bret Hart really fucking agrees with us, so like you did this for us. I'm telling you right now, if you ever tune into ICOPOD and you hear Bret Hart going, hey, this is Bret Hitman Hart, best of ever, and you're listening to ICOPOD, you got to listen to it. He did not find us and say, wow, this is a great fucking podcast. I would really want to do the opening for him. No, Bob used his credit card and paid him $125 to do it.
Right.
That is the only way that will ever happen.
Yeah, money talks, bullshit walk, man.
Right. Despite the fact that we have 3.5 million listeners, of course.
Right. That's what Bret wanted. He wanted $1 for every listener to record the opening.
Right.
So he wanted a roughly 3.5 million to do it. But we ended up settling out of court for 125, when that time comes. So, we'll see.
Yeah, he thought I was Eric Bischoff, and he's like, I want 3.5 million. You know that a year. I'm like, man, it's like a 10-second audio clip.
Right.
Lawyers got involved. I had Jerry McDevitt.
Yes.
He was like 125.
Yeah.
And I think Bret thought he meant 125,000. That's probably likely because of his stroke he had, but it was only $125. So we pulled through, and that's why Bret to this day still has to go to Syracuse Crunch games and sign autographs
because of us.
Yeah, because we were able to beat him down from 3.4 million to $125. If we were to ever do that, I don't even know. Knowing my luck, I'll do that, and then he'll be like, "No, man, that's an ad. It's like $300." I'll be like, "You know what, Bret?
Fine. Here's $300.
It's fine. You're worth it. I love you. You're my favorite wrestler of this era. You're amazing. This is a dream come true."
Yes.
Yeah. So let me just recompose myself after I got on a tangent there.
I know. And hey, good news here, folks. While Bob's kind of straightening himself out, I am wearing pants today for this episode.
Yes.
Last couple have been straight boxers. So, I've been kind of hanging a little bit free. We're recording this on a Sunday this time. So usually we're on a Thursday. You know, I'm a little bit more casual after work on a Thursday. Sunday, I'm in my Sunday best. I got my Hitman shirt on and I got my silver silk shorts. So I'm chilling and I got bottoms on. So we're firing on all cylinders here this week.
I am proud of you.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready.
Well, I'm ready to get on with this episode. And speaking of $120, it's about time I put $120 I spent, because we got some Observer notes that I got courtesy of my Observer newsletter subscription, which you can also do by going there. Now, Dave Metzler, if you ever listen to this, that's a fucking plug for you, buddy. You still have a badge. I don't know. I don't know how to get ad sales. I mean, I just plug things for you. History of WWE. I get fucking stuff there all the time. Now, I could probably be like, hey, Graham, I've talked to him a few times. Hey, man, throw me a couple bucks. I'm plugging your shit. But I don't do that because, you know, I'm not a dick. It's fine. I use all your shit. I can just plug you for free. Historyofwwe.com. Great. Freaking awesome network. I plug shit on there all the time. Go on there. It's a great forum. And I could probably got some more money from there too. But guess what? I'm an idiot and I don't do that. It's fine.
Yeah, we're not in this for the money, even though we've made millions. That's just kind of like a bonus. Plus, who likes to sit through ads on a podcast, you know?
Yeah, well, let me tell you about Blue Chew. So I have erectile dysfunction.
The little blue gimmick, dude.
Yeah, sorry. I like Bruce and Conrad and Bischoff, so
yes.
I'm just poking fun. I know we're right there. Like, we've surpassed them in popularity, and they're probably going to be pissed off about it. But.
Right. Well, that's why we don't need ads, because we're beyond that point.
Yeah, you know, that is one thing that does kind of bug me. I mean, I get it, you know, why they have to do it. One time I listened to a podcast, and I felt like I was listening to more ads than fucking content. Now, I guess Bob, it's free. Whatever. Sure. Ours is free, too, and we don't fucking have ads.
Right. So suck it.
Right. So if you want, you know, years and years of results and arenas, go to historyofwwe.com, your one-stop shop for all your wrestling. Oh my God, that's an ad. Okay. So let's go into some Observer notes as we continue on here. Speaking of legal stuff here, the WWF legal department has threatened legal action on a 16-year-old fan. Now you may be thinking, oh, what? Was this fan flirting with Jerry Lawler? No. They would be too old. Instead, this is in reference to the fan having a fan club dedicated to Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
so apparently this fan was making money off of this whole little fan club newsletter thing or what have you. So the WWF said they wanted any money that he was able to earn from them since they own the rights to the names. Now, talk about an absolute ridiculous thing. That's insane that you can't have a fan club just because of the likeness. You should be making millions of dollars on a company, and this 16-year-old kid, realistically, how much money is this kid making from it? And you want to take it from him.
Well, and the thing that kills me is this is a presumably got to be $1 million company by 93.
The WWF?
Yeah.
Oh, it's multi-millions.
Yeah. So you have this $1 million company going after some fucking Rudy Poo 16-year-old having a little bit of fun on the computer. It doesn't really endear WWF that much, I don't think.
That would be an understatement.
Yeah. That seems pretty petty. Especially
yeah.
He's running a fan club. He's a fan of your product. If anything, he's championing you guys.
It's good marketing. He's advertising for you anyway.
Right.
In completely unrelated news, I have a Papa Shango fan club, and if you sign up for $15.95 a month, you'll get a free wine glass in the shape of a skull. You can contact ICOPOD@gmail.com and just send me your address, and you can PayPal me at bobcalling@gmail.com, and it'll be great.
Well, while we're plugging, if you want to stop over to kimcheesthebeesknees.com, we're actually running a special right now on memberships for the low price of $59.99. You will get your
I fucking undersold. Damn it! I only went $15.95.
You will get your own beekeeper mask in the mail. Again, that is kimcheesethebeesknees.com, baby.
I can't wait for like 6 weeks when this is released. If I get a fucking email from some legal guy in the WWE that's like, hey man,
don't plug
Papa Shango's a trademark that we own. If any money you make, we have to make sure we recoup that. I'd be like, guys, it's a fucking joke.
I could probably open up the kimchi site. Maybe
everybody knows it's a Tatanka fan club. If I were to ever make a fucking fan club, it'd be on Tatanka.
Right.
And you get a free scalp. So Meltzer believes, Dave Meltzer believes that SummerSlam will be the last match for Giant Gonzalez, one of our personal favorites and all-time greats in the ring, and he will move to Tampa.
What a shame.
Yeah. Tampa, that's pretty close to you, right, Orlando?
God, yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. So maybe, is he dead?
Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Yes.
He died?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess you can't hang out with him. Sherry Martel was fired this past week and was caught off guard as she was about to board a plane to Philadelphia. Now, remember, a couple episodes ago, she had put in her notice that she was going to quit and go to a beauty school and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
So this comes as a surprise. Well, it's because Luna Vachon is out with a broken wrist, so she's not doing house shows. So as a result, there's not much need for Sherry Martel. So that would explain why Sherry has been let go.
That makes sense, yeah.
Now, I just want to do a quick spoiler alert. I don't know how well the beauty school thing worked out for Sherry, because within about a year and a half, she would be in a different organization.
Well, needless to say, right?
Yeah, I'm sure money talks in that situation. Speaking of Philadelphia, there is a show taking place following SummerSlam, and I just want to point out some of the matches that are being advertised. There is a match between the 1-2-3 Kid and Shawn Michaels, Mr. Perfect against Diesel, the Steiner Brothers defending the tag titles against the team of Bam Bam Bigelow and Adam Bomb, and a tag team match that will see Men on a Mission taking on Well Done.
Very interesting, and I like pretty much all of that, to be honest with you. That all sounds pretty good. I am really interested in the Adam Bomb Bam Bam Bigelow mesh. Although I guess it kind of makes sense in a weird way, like visually.
I was just going to say visually and character-wise, they seem to be kind of similar.
Yeah, could you imagine that team? That'd be a dominant ass tag team.
Yeah, it would be. I also, though, if you kind of compare it to other shows, the WWF roster sounds significantly younger.
Yes.
So that I think that's nothing but good, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, well, think of those compared to the ones we got, like even I would say post WrestleMania, even comparatively.
Well, I mean, like one of the first ones that came to mind was the one in January when they were at Madison Square Garden, and they had like Savage against DiBiase, which is like that's 1988. Like it just screams to me 1988. Or any of like the Hogan and Money Incorporated stuff. Like it's just seems like it's older. That sounds like, hey, these guys are young. 1-2-3 Kid Shawn Michaels, that could be incredible.
Right.
Yeah, and Perfect Diesel, who knows how that would work out. But Steiner's against Bigelow and Adam Bomb's pretty solid in the ring. Yeah. That could be a sleeper of a match too. So I was intrigued that that could be happening at SummerSlam or following SummerSlam in Philadelphia. But I would be curious to see if that happens because of course we have house show notes, and when we get to that point in time, I'll probably include that house show just to kind of see what ended up actually happening.
Yeah.
This time around, though, the WWF had a show in West Palm Beach, Florida, that took place on July 17th, 1993, with about 2,300 fans in attendance, and it featured the 1-2-3 Kid taking on Terry Taylor, Doink the Clown battling Virgil, Marty Janentty against the Predator, the Bushwhackers and Tiger Jackson taking on Blake Beverly, the Brooklyn Brawler, who was a substitute for Bo Beverly, and Little Louie. Razor Ramon took on Jerry Lawler. Jim Duggan met Mr. Hughes in singles action, and in the main event, WWF Tag Team Champions, the Steiner Brothers, defended against Money Incorporated.
That fucking card's horrible. That is horrible.
I would explain why it's a lower attendance than last week's 2,300.
Oh, God. As soon as we give them props for kind of moving forward, we take 2 steps back with that house show card. Good Lord. I don't know if there's anything on that card worth seeing.
Well, I think the Steiner's Money Inc. I'm kind of intrigued by Razor Jerry Lawler.
Not
but I feel like Lawler would just fucking stall like the entire time. So that would probably be kind of brutal. But no, this is definitely one of the weaker ones and not something I would probably seek out to attend.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, same here because especially even last week we had much stronger cards. So I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Maybe they just got lazy.
I guess.
So coming out of the house shows, we got syndication. We have one feature match to talk about, and it took place on the July 17th edition of Superstars, and it saw a relatively big match, one of the bigger matches of the year on television. It is the WWF Tag Team Champions Steiner Brothers defending against Money Incorporated. Now, Jerry Lawler is on commentary, and he says that Ramon looks weird wearing an apron, being Money Incorporated's maid. IRS also does his usual tax cheat routine. Now, I want to point out that this is obviously before the Raw that takes place, that we'll be covering on just moments later.
Yes.
Because it's important to note that, and he says that on commentary, so just context. Scott and IRS kick off the tag title match, and Scott controls IRS with a hammerlock, but IRS is able to reach the ropes quickly. IRS gets a wrist lock on Scott, and then Scott goes right back to the hammerlock, and we go back to the ropes. IRS with a drop toe hold, and then Scott gets control on the mat, as you would kind of expect with the amateur wrestling background, although IRS was amateur as well.
Yep.
Scott blocks a boot to the gut attempt, but IRS uses his free leg to deliver a kick to the side of the head. Scott plants IRS with power slam and scares DiBiase back to the apron. DiBiase tags in and trades wrist control with Scott. Ted delivers a shoulder block, but Scott comes back with a standing drop kick for a near fall. Rick gets tagged in and keeps DiBiase on the mat with a headlock. DiBiase knee lifts Rick in the corner and delivers a shoulder block. Rick connects with a belly-to-belly suplex for a near fall as we go to a commercial break. Scott tags in Rick to keep control on DiBiase. Scott hits a leg sweep. He leg sweeps DiBiase to keep him on the mat. DiBiase stops Scott with the knee strike to the gut, but IRS misses an elbow drop. Rick tags in and keeps IRS on the mat, working over his left arm. IRS then bails to the floor to avoid Scott's attack. Scott grabs IRS by his tie, and McMahon makes the usual "is that his tongue" joke that has been going on for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Scott drops IRS over the top rope and then drops to the floor, leading to a near fall. DiBiase trips Scott from the floor, and IRS delivers a knee lift to send Scott to the floor from behind. DiBiase then rams Scott face first into the ring steps. IRS gets a 2 count in the ring. DiBiase leaps off the middle rope to hit a double axe handle. IRS chokes Scott while on the apron as the referee is distracted by Rick Steiner. DiBiase keeps a sleeper on Scott until he is sent face first into the top turnbuckle. IRS drops Scott throat first over the top rope, followed by a leg drop for another 2 count. Scott stops IRS with a jawbreaker. DiBiase enters and stops on Scott. DiBiase drives Scott to the mat with a vertical suplex for a 2 count, and we get another commercial break. Coming back from break, Scott takes DiBiase over with a snap suplex and struggles towards the corner for a tag. IRS gets tagged in and stops Scott from making the tag. Scott gets a sunset flip, but DiBiase is distracts the referee, leading to only a near fall on the pin attempt. IRS runs the ropes and collides with Scott, knocking them both down. DiBiase gets tagged in, as does Rick. Rick clotheslines DiBiase and IRS. Rick slams DiBiase, and all 4 men are going at it. IRS decks Rick while the referee was distracted, and Scott comes off the middle rope with a forearm strike. This leads to Rick nearly pinning DiBiase. Rick plants DiBiase with a power slam, and then decks IRS to the floor. Scott enters and takes DiBiase over with the Frankensteiner, which I was surprised to see. IRS jabs Scott with a briefcase while the referee is distracted, and DiBiase gets the pin. We have new WWF Tag Team Champions. Wait a second. A second referee is at ringside and tells the referee what happened. They converse. The referee proceeds to reverse the decision, and Money Incorporated has been disqualified. So Rick and Scott are still the WWF Tag Team Champions.
Yeah. I got to be honest with you. Out of all the Steiner matches we've seen so far, I thought that this was the most boring. I feel like I could really tell that this was more or less a Money Inc. led match. Because there was kind of a lot of classic tricks being pulled out, just as far as like timing of the match, story, that sort of thing. Although I have to make note that IRS nipped up out of an armbar. That's right, IRS nipped up, which I was very impressed with him doing.
That agility, brother.
Yeah, very kind of out of character for him, but hey, I'll take it. You know. With that said, yes, the Frankensteiner was executed, which I did not think, A, that Ted would take it, and B, that we would have seen that, before Ted left or whatever. But it actually got pulled off pretty nicely. Like, it was a pretty clean Frankensteiner there. I was getting pretty bored about the halfway point here. Especially because it didn't feel like a regular Steiner outing that we've seen here in 93. It just felt very plotting match. I even heard some boring chants in between cheers from the crowd kind of towards the end. I thought there was like too many like short momentum swings. So like there was no heat between the kind of buildups. So, you'd get a couple moves and then they'd be stopped. And then the next team would get a couple moves, they'd be stopped. It was just back and forth, back and forth. I thought it was too much. I thought it kind of took away from the match a little bit because I don't know. I just feel like these teams, whenever they fight, whenever it's Money Inc. and Steiners, I just feel like their styles clash so badly. And that the Steiners have to kind of water themselves down to kind of get the most even keel that they can with these guys. And I definitely felt this way with this match. All things considered, I thought the switched finish, the switched kind of call from the referee was stupid. The little, the jamming of the briefcase on Scott's neck, and then, Ted being able to get the 3 count after getting pretty much planted with a Frankensteiner, I thought didn't make much sense. We did not need another title change because they even call that Rick and Scott are the new tag team champions once they get it back after the reverse decision. I just thought a lot of it was a little bit unnecessary. I think it went along, probably longer than it needed to, more confusing finish than it needed to be. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of when these guys square off, to be honest.
Well, this is probably one of the only few times that we've disagreed. I thought it was better than I was expecting, and I actually kind of enjoyed it.
Really?
Yeah. I understand the dusty finish because it allows them to kind of continue it on television. There's just some level of chemistry between these two teams that I like. I kind of enjoy how the Steiner brothers have to slow it down a little bit. It's not so crash course, similar to what they did with the Head Shrinkers, which was really good. This isn't on par to that. I'm not saying it's the same.
No, yeah.
It was a fine little TV match, and I think when you compare it to all the other tag team matches that we've seen, in terms of bigger tag team matches, this is one of the better ones. To just jump into my mind, the Steiner Brothers Head Shrinkers from WrestleMania 9 is probably the best tag team match that we've seen thus far.
Yeah,
I would have to think, and I don't know really what else there is to compare it to, but I thought this was solid enough, and I was glad that Ted was able to take the Frankensteiner. I really didn't think he was going to take it. I thought IRS would take it.
Oh, if anybody.
If anybody was going to. But no, I actually didn't mind it, and I would be interested to see more of these guys. I think that there's potential there for these guys to have good matches, and it's amazing though that we didn't get this on pay-per-view. You just get this on syndication for free,
right, or even not even on Raw or anything.
Or Raw, yeah. Although I think they were making pretty good money still on syndication, so it kind of makes sense that they do need strong matches on there to rotate through. But
no, that's probably a fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Bob. I don't know. I think I'm getting kind of spoiled with how quickly we're advancing into the future of wrestling. And I can't help but to see IRS and Ted just, we're beyond them. We're past them.
Yeah, they are like one of the only remaining they only formed in '92, but like DiBiase's like one of the last kind of '80s guys for WWF,
right,
to be sticking around. And IRS kind of has that old feel to him.
Yep.
Just the style of wrestling. So I can see your point of how they don't really maybe fit in with the direction that the company is going in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also on syndication, after Mr. Hughes competed in a singles match, he destroyed yet another black wreath at ringside. We now will begin our journey, or our continuation of our journey, with the July 19th, 93 edition of Monday Night Raw, which is live from the Manhattan Center in Manhattan, New York. And the show starts off with footage from last Thursday, where the Lex Express was just beginning. Luger cut a promo saying that people are wrong to say that it's not cool to be patriotic, and he's going to show that it is, in fact, cool. Can't say I've ever heard anybody say, like, hey, man, it's not cool to support your country.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of a weird approach. We got our Raw opening video, as per usual, and we return to the arena. Vince McMahon, Randy Savage, and Bobby Heenan are on commentary promoting what we'll see on the program. Shawn Michaels will defend the title against Marty Janentty, and that would be, of course, for the Intercontinental Championship, plus the Raw debut of Men on a Mission, and we will have a King's Court with Jerry Lawler, as he will have a special guest that is Tiny Tim. Boy, I can't wait to get into that one. We see footage from 9 weeks ago on Raw when Mr. Perfect cost Shawn Michaels the Intercontinental Championship in a match against Marty Janentty. Of course, Michaels regained the title a short time later in Albany, New York, on a house show. Our first match of the evening is, in fact, WWF Intercontinental Champion Shawn Michaels defending against Marty Janentty. Now, hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're sitting down, because this is kind of a lengthy match. And the read-through may take a couple of minutes here, so bear with me. Be ready.
Yeah, and just to kind of paint the picture for you, I would say the Marty Janentty Shawn stuff up until this point has been some of my favorite stuff, I think, of the year so far. So going into this one, I was pretty excited. I was excited to see, hopefully, Marty still on a pretty clear path to what he's doing, and Shawn really starting to come into the peak of who he really is. I think ever since he got paired up with Diesel and he had Diesel appear on that Raw, I remember talking about it with you, Bob, that I think that's kind of when we saw the emergence of who Shawn is going to be for the next couple of years. So I think if you put this time up against even the Royal Rumble time, both guys are in two very different places now. So, despite 9 weeks ago and despite all that, I was looking forward to this match.
I was as well, and it's interesting that you note that the previous television stuff, because they obviously, as you mentioned, had the match at the Royal Rumble, which Shawn Michaels won.
Right.
And then on May 17th, they had a match on Raw where Jannetty won. So this is the third match. This could be, the best 2 out of 3. So we'll see,
right,
maybe who in fact is the better rocker. Diesel is at ringside with Shawn Michaels. I just like to point out stuff like that. Michaels attacks Jannetty when Marty is talking to the referee and delivers several elbow strikes. Jannetty lands on his feet on an attempted backdrop and counters a backslide attempt with a clothesline for a 2 count. Marty gets another 2 count with a roll-up before sending Michaels to the floor through the middle rope. Michaels misses a super kick attempt upon his return and goes to the corner frustrated. Shawn eye pokes Jannetty while the referee was out of position. Michaels misses a shoulder splash in the corner, and Jannetty delivers a few slams for a 2 count. Shawn regains control with an elbow strike, but Jannetty delivers a boot followed by a middle rope clothesline. Jannetty goes to the top rope, but Michaels moves out of the way. Jannetty hits a DDT and pins Michaels, but Michaels had his boot on the bottom rope. Diesel gets in the ring and argues with the referee. We go to commercial.
Yeah, and you know, all right, so if we pause it here, I was afraid that even before that pin, that Diesel was going to ruin this match because there was a couple times where they were cutting the camera away to just Diesel, and I thought they were emphasizing him a little too much for us to get a clean victory out of this one. So I was starting to get a little bit bummed out that because before then, before the pinfall, even while they're showing kind of the close-ups of Diesel and talking about him, this match is pretty 50-50 and everything seems to be firing on all cylinders. Now, don't get me wrong, Marty Jannetty's attire is, again, straight out of Max Moon's closet. Just horrible. Doesn't age well. I think out of all the guys in 93 that we see, Marty's attires end up being the most out of date and kind of just horrible. So, you know, despite that, despite the Diesel thing, they were having a pretty damn good match. Which brings us to when we return from commercial break.
Yes, we return, and the referee has, in fact, restarted the match after Heenan had shown a replay of what happened at ringside. Jannetty attacks Michaels on the floor and hits a snap suplex in the ring for a 2 count. Marty drives Michaels down with a backbreaker for another 2 count, and then Jannetty gets a sleeper hold on Michaels in the middle of the ring. Michaels drives Jannetty down the mat with a back suplex. He then stops Jannetty in the corner with an elbow strike, and then knee lifts Marty to the floor. They collide in the middle of the ring, causing Michaels to fall through the ropes to the floor. Diesel tries to help Michaels up and distracts the referee to allow a cheap shot on Marty. We go to yet another commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
Michaels comes off the top with a double axe handle and keeps control with another sleeper. Marty comes off the ropes, but is met with a knee to the gut and keeps control with a front face lock. Shawn uses the ropes for an illegal advantage, but Jannetty isn't going to give up. Marty prevents his arm from falling 3 times and then crotches Michaels over the top rope. Jannetty hits a spinning back elbow as Michael was coming off the ropes for another near fall. Marty counters a powerbomb with a Hurricanrana for a 2 count. Marty misses a splash in the corner, and Michaels hits a crossbody, but Jannetty rolls through for another 2 count. Marty plants Michaels with a standing rocker dropper. Michaels gets trapped in the ropes, and Marty delivers several strikes. Michaels then avoids a running strike, and Jannetty flies over the top to the floor. Diesel comes over, picks up Jannetty, rolls him into the ring, and Michaels wins the match. What'd you think of this?
All right, so kind of right where I cut you off last. Everything up until that point was gravy. It was going great, really into the match. And then there was some stuff I didn't like. Most notably, I thought that the whole Shawn kind of getting his arms trapped in the ropes thing was a little bit too preempted. Like, I could see that Shawn physically did it to himself, which I didn't like. I heard a lot of spots being called by Shawn. So it's almost like as the match went on, Shawn got a little bit careless maybe with his execution, which kind of sucked. Took me out of it a little bit. But with that said, Marty's bump to the outside, like when he flies over the top rope and lands to the outside, he bounces. He lands so hard. So that had to fucking hurt, and I give him props for doing that because it looked pretty brutal. It was towards the end of the match, too, that I think the crowd was losing it a little bit. We were getting "oop, there it is" chants during this match. Not to say that they haven't been doing that, but especially for a match that they should have really been invested in, especially with all the false finishes and like the pretty close contest, you know, that kind of told me everything I needed to know. The finish, I think, is one of the worst we've seen so far. I think that it would have just sufficed if Marty got counted out after the big bump he took. To have Diesel then roll him in and then Shawn to throw an arm over him and pin him, I thought was kind of lame. They could have done that much, much better. Even if you had Diesel, say Marty was kind of getting up off the ground, and maybe Shawn's got the referee distracted, and at 9, as the ref kind of gets back into it, Diesel somehow either holds Marty's leg, something stupid to where you can still utilize Diesel, but it's not. He just throws him in the ring and Shawn pins him. Like, it was a very lackluster finish, I thought, to an otherwise pretty decent match. I did enjoy it. Even though there was some laziness to it a little bit. But I thought it was a great opening match. I'm glad that Shawn won, even though I'm a Marty guy lately. I like when he's the IC champion. I just don't think that it has too much legs underneath it because we never know what kind of state Marty's going to be in, unfortunately. I liked the tease that he did win the belt. Although I thought that was a little bit early in the match because really we have a whole half of the match to still get through after that. So you almost kind of forget about it. But all in all, I'd say pretty solid. Not as good as I wanted it to be, but solid.
Yeah, they do the dusty finish, I think, like 5 minutes into the match, and then they do another 15. So it's about almost, I think, around 20 minutes, the whole thing.
Right.
The finish was pretty lame, but the action leading up to it was rather enjoyable and kept my interest. Considering it went so long, it's one of the longer Raw matches we've had to watch to this point. I think Jannetty Doink was a little longer, but it's in that area.
Yeah.
It's one of the better matches on Raw, I would say.
Yep.
Would you prefer this over their original match back in May 17th?
Definitely over the Royal Rumble one. Definitely.
That's why I didn't even mention that.
Yep. I don't think so. I think I liked the May match better.
I think it's a better moment just because Marty surprisingly comes back, wins the title.
Yes.
I want to point out, though, that this match, in fact, was voted Match of the Year by Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, I was not expecting that. No, don't get me wrong.
I don't know if that is the general consensus, though.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That's like the readers of Pro Wrestling Illustrated that voted that. And I don't know when the voting for those awards happened. So maybe it was like fresh in people's minds, like, oh, this is a great match.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's match of the year, but no. I would say, I probably enjoyed the May one a little bit more. Because I feel like it was more about the match and less about an angle. With Diesel, it's a little bit more about an angle, I think. Yeah. Kind of, trying to fit him in somewhere. But, solid match. Solid match for sure. And like I said, a good opener. I think it delivered on that, if nothing else.
Yeah. We got our ICOPRO ad with Luger yet again. And a Slim Jim ad with Randy Savage. When we come back to the arena, Randy Savage and Bobby Heenan are promoting WWF Mania, which Savage co-hosts with Todd Pettengill, while Heenan promotes All American, which he co-hosts with Mean Gene. They're on Sundays. And they pretty much just say, this show's better, whatever, you should watch it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Back to the ring, Vince McMahon introduces Money Incorporated for an interview. DiBiase is counting his money, which is his favorite thing to do. McMahon notes that the Steiner brothers loved to win the titles from them. IRS claims that they were robbed of the titles, and the fans are chanting his name, Irwin, to annoy him as per usual, as he stopped cutting his promo to kind of like scowl at them.
Right.
They have a rematch with the Steiner brothers next week, and they aren't going to be cheated out of the tag titles this time. The Steiners will leave like losers that they are. DiBiase chimes in and transitions to Razor Ramon, who is the biggest loser of them all. Ramon lost to a punk kid on national television and had his money stolen. Razor Ramon, seemingly on cue, makes his way down to the ring to confront them. DiBiase says they can find some domestic work for Ramon, like cleaning their bathroom or waxing their cars. Ramon declines the offer to work for them. Ramon does a lot of work with his hands, but it's for himself and not for them. Now, you can interpret that however you would want to interpret that.
Well, I think he's trying to infer that, he's done some dangerous work. Not that he's, jacked anybody off for money.
Right. I mean, if he's jacking anybody off, he's jacking himself off.
Well, especially with the fucking maroon pants and checkered shirt that he came down to the ring in. I mean, it was an abomination to say the least. It looked something like your grandma's Sunday best that he fucking walked down to the ring in. But this, I thought, for what it was up until this point, one of Razor's coolest moments. He comes down and just has a swagger about him. Yeah. But yes, please continue, Bob.
Well, I'm also just going to say, if Ramon's going to cause anybody to ooze machismo, it's going to be his own machismo, not anybody else's machismo. So don't get it twisted, Chico.
He's going to play with the stick, man.
DiBiase laughs that Ramon doesn't have a price, and he slaps Ramon across the face with some cash. Ramon doesn't take that very kindly. He tosses DiBiase down and then throws IRS over the top to the floor. Ramon leaves the ring to cheers. DiBiase gets on the microphone and says that nobody does that to them, and he'll make Ramon pay for that. DiBiase wants a piece of the 1-2-3 kid, and he's challenging the kid so he can wipe him on the mat. He'll beat him in 30 seconds. He will show them what a real man can do.
Yeah, I think for what it was pretty good. It made me interested in seeing a match between Razor and Ted, even though I still don't really get the heat behind it. They're making something out of it, so that was welcomed. There were some good lines mixed in here. I think Ted had a couple good lines. Razor was able to fire back with a few good lines of his own. But yeah, like you said, he basically says there was no way that he'd ever work for Ted or IRS, and that he works for himself. Nobody else. He's his own kind of lone wolf, is Razor. So I liked that part of it. Again, I think it adds to the badassery that we're getting from Razor Ramon lately, that he's like a one-man gang, I love the slap across the face with the money.
I thought that was great. It's so disrespectful. Yes. And such a dirty, heel thing to do. I did like that touch of it.
Yes. And you know what? It was the way it was done, because it was such a cocky, it was almost like a tap across his neck.
It was very casual, you're not worth it.
Yeah, and Razor snaps after that. So I think just the execution, the way it worked, they definitely have chemistry, Razor and Ted, which is good. And I loved how fired up Ted was in just his suit pants and cummerbund. So he rips the top jacket off, and he's screaming in the ring on the mic to Vince about challenging, 1-2-3 kid. And that's it. He's got the cummerbund on and fucking suit pants. And he says that he keeps making references to, Mr. Machismo. He's kind of throwing that in Razor's face. And he's like you said, I'll show you who the real man is. When he beats 1-2-3 kid in 30 seconds or whatever he says. So yeah, I think for the interaction, I liked it. Hopefully they're going to make me like this feud, even though it kind of started out of nowhere. I thought that it was kind of unfortunate at that point. IRS was kind of just in the shuffle. He didn't really have anything to do with it. So for Razor to kind of just dispose of him, I was like, poor IRS. But yeah, no, I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the entire segment as well. It seemed there was some pretty good heat there. Now, my question for you, though, is, let's say at SummerSlam, would you prefer a Money Incorporated versus, let's say, 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon, or just a singles match between Ted and Ramon?
Just selfishly, because I'm not sure, again, that the styles would really work between the two teams. I would say we're better off in a singles match, but again, that's kind of like, well, what do you do with IRS? Unless maybe you can do a Razor versus Ted with 1-2-3 Kid in Razor's corner and IRS in Ted's corner. And it's kind of like a situation there. But yeah, I would probably say singles match, just kind of on the cuff for that one.
Okay. I was just curious to see where you would go with that.
Yeah.
That leads us to our second match of the evening. It is a tag team match as Men on a Mission make their Raw debut to take on the ever devastating and destructive duo of Rich Myers and Hank Harris. What do you have for Men on a Mission's debut there, Austin?
Well, so we get the first establishing shot of Men on a Mission, during their entrance. And I'll tell you what, the crowd was into it. These guys are over. Even though their outfits look like Crayola threw up on them. their hype man, Oscar, got the crowd going after the bell rang. They did like their raps. They were kind of dancing around the ring a little bit. So I'll give them credit. They were over. I don't know if that was for just the crowd interaction, which I kind of chalk it up to, or kind of what they've been doing before debuting on Raw. But we'll see. We'll see. Going into the action, it's kind of started off with no tag format. Mabel and Mo were just destroying Rich Myers with some tag offense. And then Mabel hit a giant leg drop that made the crowd wince when he came down. They were really popping on these guys' moves. I think Mo is a good setup guy for the big Mabel to kind of clean house, if you will. We finally did get some tag format in the match, and Mabel really worked basic moves. The guys were kind of running into him and bouncing off. He didn't have to do too much. And during the match too, Oscar was on the outside, kind of still hyping the team up. And he calls out directly Money Inc. and the Head Shrinkers, just to kind of, I don't know, maybe throw their name in the same hat. But I thought that was a little cheesy because I don't think they're nearly on those levels yet. But nonetheless, there it was. There it was, I should say. To finish the match here, we got a splash from Mabel. And I got to be honest, I'm still not a fan. I'm not a fan of the team. I think there isn't much you can do with them long term. I think it's kind of a flash in the pan, capitalizing on the time period and what's popular right that second. It's only a matter of time, I think, before these guys have to be broken up. And I don't know if Mo is going to be sticking around much, because even though Mabel definitely isn't the charismatic guy, he's definitely the one you have your eye on when they're in the ring. He does all kind of like the heavy lifting. And he does look pretty impressive. I compared him also maybe like a Mr. Hughes as far as like intimidation, the big, black, strong, impactful wrestler. So, a decent debut. They looked strong. The crowd was loving them. I'm still not convinced, unfortunately.
Well, I enjoyed it, and I think that Men on a Mission will get over with the crowd. I mean, they already seemingly have with the Manhattan Center. But you are right that your focus when they're in the ring is on Mabel, not really Mo.
Totally.
So seemingly, as long as they want to keep them together, they'll be dependent on maybe Mabel and how popular he will become. So that should be interesting to point out. And I kind of liked, though, the reference to Money Incorporated and Head Shrinkers, because it can set up various TV matches there as well. So
right.
I didn't mind the reference there. Overall, though, it was a pretty effective and simple debut for the new duo that I have an appreciation for. So, whoop, there it is. Coming out of there, we got a SummerSlam 93 report with Mean Gene, who was dancing to Man on a Mission's music prior to the camera coming on to him. And then he, regains himself. And he points out again that the show will be taking place on August 30th, which is a Monday night. And now there are 2 matches that are announced. The first one, of course, being Bret Hart taking on Jerry Lawler. And Mean Gene recalls how Lawler attacked Hart after Hart had won the King of the Ring tournament back in June. And the second match is The Undertaker taking on Giant Gonzalez in a Rest in Peace match, which Gene notes that Undertaker is the only one that knows the rules to the match. So I don't know how WWF officials sanctioned it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
If Undertaker is the only one that knows the rules to it. WWF President Jack Tunney will give his judgment on whether or not Luger will get a title shot at SummerSlam as well. So we will be finding that out probably next week. We go back to the arena where Vince McMahon, Bobby Heenan, and Randy Savage promote the Lex Express, which made a stop at Philadelphia. We then see some footage of the bus in action.
I would love to take over from here if I could.
Go right ahead, because that's all I wrote about it, because I didn't really care. So
oh boy, this one was on par. Not quite the same hole or course as the Hogan and the Crush promos that we got leading into WrestleMania, but pretty damn close. So let me paint the scene for you here. Basically, what we got was it sounded like a training montage, so like a Rocky almost when Rocky's training. That's basically what it was. So you get the music, and it's a video of Lex looking out of his bus curtains, signing autographs for kids on the street, signing a child's cast in a hospital for sick kids. There's night shots of a crowd chanting his name on an outside of the arena. The bus traveling across open highways. Lex is holding babies. And perhaps the best shot of them all. Lex is standing on top of the Lex Express in front of the Washington Monument. And it looks like they literally pulled over on a highway because you can only see the monument kind of between the trees. And Lex is standing on top of the bus, shirt off, in American flag Zubaz pants, posing. Just posing to nothing. Imagine driving by this scene on the highway. Fucking Lex Luger on top of a bus, oiled up as fuck, posing to virtually nothing next to, or should I say, with the Washington Monument in the background. It was one of the most ridiculous things we've seen yet. I got a damn kick out of it. And I'll tell you what, for all the wrong reasons, I like this.
Oh my God. Are you fucking kidding me? I know you just said for all the wrong reasons, but you're enjoying it?
Yes, because it's so bad and it's so funny that they're taking it so seriously and it just falls so flat, you know? I like it because I view it as a comedy angle at this point.
Okay, so they're not trying for a comedy angle.
Not at all. No,
right.
No, not at all. So, like I said, I'm liking it for all the wrong reasons. But just the whole fact that it was literally, it felt like a Rocky montage if it was for like a babysitting service. Like, this is the guy you want to drop off to your kids while you're at work so we can hold them, feed them their bottle, lay them down for a nap, pose in front of the Washington Monument, and then send them on home happy and well rested. It was gold. So good. So good because it was so bad. And it just so cringeworthy that they think this is what a face should be portrayed as in 1993. When they got a face that should be, you know, the face in a guy like Razor Ramon, who's like the badass, you know, 90s face. Or even like a 1-2-3 kid, if you don't want to go the badass angle, like the ultimate underdog, or a guy like Brett who fights for values but isn't a cornball. You know, he still has a little bit of an edge to him. It feels so dated and it feels so out of touch at the time. But I'll tell you what, this video, I loved it. I loved everything about it because it was ridiculous.
I'm glad that you took notes on it because as soon as I saw it, I did one of these. Now you're probably wondering what the hell was that smack? Well, I literally just smacked myself in the face and then had my hand go down.
Yeah,
my entire face because it was just, to me, brutal to watch it.
It's the ultimate cheese. It's like wrestling cheese,
but it's just like it makes no sense because the context of what Lex Luger was 3 weeks ago was everybody fucking hated him, and now it's like, oh my God, Lex, hold my baby because you slammed Yokozuna and you're an American hero and I love you.
He literally is.
What the fuck? This guy was literally posing in front of mirrors all the fucking time and was doing the booby dance all the time because he was so fucking conceited and he only cared about himself.
Right. No, I know.
And now it's like you're going to be our savior to be Yokozuna and we love you and like everything's going to be great.
Right. And that's the thing. That's the thing that kills it. And that's the thing that makes it, you know, a failure from day one is because it's totally out of the realm of what Lex Luger was. And in such a short time, they've pretty much kind of turned the whole thing on their head. And it really affects the whole whatever they're trying to accomplish is never going to work, and it was never going to work. And I'm just so surprised that they couldn't see that, you know. But yeah, it's if everything's like this moving forward, I'm gonna love the next couple of months because I'm gonna think they're friggin' hilarious.
Well, from a comedy aspect, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Moving on. We maybe go from bad to fucking worse because Tiny Tim is playing his ukulele, and he's being overall pretty fucking creepy about it as he promotes his appearance on King's Court later on.
Yeah, you know what? The camera work doesn't help because it kind of pans from bottom up.
Yes.
First of all, he's wearing like a Mickey suit, so Mickey's face printed all over the suit. He's got a purple undershirt on and like a white and blue pattern tie, so it's a horrible outfit. It looks like something Jimmy Hart would be wearing. And he just physically, like his face, he reminds me of Weird Al Yankovic. Like that's who he kind of looks like to me. And he's just strumming his ukulele and like his voice cracks and we throw to commercial. So right here is just the hits keep on coming. First you get the Lex thing. Now we're going into Tiny Tim. And this feels like a Chikara show. It's just all comedy. You might as well have told me that on King's Court, along with Tiny Tim, Los Ice Creams are getting interviewed. Yeah. It would have fit. It would have fit. It's hilarious. I was more than looking forward to King's Court, knowing that I personally don't really like Jerry Lawler at this point in his career. Like in the ring, he doesn't entertain me. So to see where this was going to go with Tiny Tim, I was really looking forward to it.
Well, we go from the bad Lex Luger video highlight to an even worse Tiny Tim brief appearance. Boy, we might as well go for the fucking trifecta because we got our third match, and it's, God damn it, Bastion Booger against Scott Dupre. And I was hoping his name would be like Scott Depression because I'm feeling fucking depressed after those three segments right after each other.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
So before if you're a viewer and you're thinking, oh, maybe I want to check out Tiny Tim on King's Court, you got to sit through a fucking Bastion Booger match. And maybe at that point you're like, you know what, man? I think I'll skip it this week.
Yeah.
Needless to say, this doesn't go very long. It goes about 90 seconds. Booger delivers a clothesline and then hits a splash and then a leg drop and a power slam. He then does his trademark, I'm going to sit down with my groin right on your face, and he wins the match. Likely because Scott went unconscious due to the stench.
Yeah, well, because it was like the Mad Monk finish. That's what he did as the Mad Monk.
Right.
So, I fucking hate Bastion Booger. I think he looks gross. He wrestles pretty shittily. Nothing really entertaining about the guy, I think. He hit a decent clothesline. He headbutted the guy. He headbutted the corner turnbuckle because he was like pretty fired up during this match. But you're not selling me on this guy now. You're not selling me on him in a year. Like, I just release him, please. Like, the sooner you release him, the better, because whether he's fucking Mad Monk or Bastion Booger, he's rotten. Not WWF quality by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm sorry to be so mean, but I would argue that it's a pretty hard fact to argue.
Sorry. I didn't pause. I wasn't frozen or anything. I was just staring at my screen, just kind of reflecting on my life after I had to sit through that like 6 minutes of just dreadfulness.
Well, I was going to say, Bob, I know I just broke your heart, but that's how I'm feeling.
No, I don't like Bastion Booger either. So all things, we kind of break the trend of negativity because we get another little preview for next week's edition of Raw. That is that next week, Bret the Hitman Hart, dun 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 dun, will take on Bam Bam Bigelow, dun 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 dun, in a rematch from the King of the Ring finals on Raw.
Right. I definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah. And then it's right back to depressed mode No, not the jobber from the previous match with Pastor Booker. No, it's my emotional stability. Because we got King's Court with Jerry Lawler, and the fans are chanting Burger King towards him. Lawler's happy that Bigelow will squash Bret Hart. A little later on, he says that, basically noting the show will be taped the same day.
I know. I had that noted too. Like, really? You just gave it away.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And I don't know if somebody just didn't tell King or...
It might have been a slip-up.
Yeah, or either that or King just didn't give a fuck. Because he does. He blatantly gives away that, it's taped. Yeah. So that sucks. But something that doesn't suck is this segment. And again,
I'm gonna let you fucking do it.
I was gonna say, if you'd let me do the honors, I'd love to.
Go right the fuck ahead. You nail these things out of the park, and fucking A. Go right ahead, buddy.
Oh shit. All right, so here we are. The King's Court segment has arrived, and King's basically in a black cape and dark colored tights. So I noted that because if you remember, one of the last times we saw him on Raw, he was kind of taking a jab at Bret with the hot pink attire on.
Right, correct.
So he's kind of dressed it down a little bit this time, which fair enough. Like Bob says, he was getting a ton of Burger King chants, and he does make note of the Bam Bam Bret Hart match. Fine. It is what it is, I guess. Then, the moment we're all been waiting for, he introduces Tiny Tim, and he came out blowing kisses to the crowd and confirmed that, he was from New York City. He's proud of the city, all this stuff. So King proceeded to pretty much mock him at every turn. So every chance he could, he did. And he told him that he looked like an unmade bed, which I thought was hilarious because that's exactly what he looked like. So King was already kind of firing on all cylinders here. He asked if he won his Mickey suit from a carnival game. Basically insinuating that it was pretty much a bargain buy there, which again, who wears a Mickey suit? I couldn't agree more. I don't know, Bob, do you know, kind of side note, if Tiny Tim has a connection with Disney at all or something? Or is it just...
I don't believe so. I don't even really know much about the guy other than he has a really annoying voice, and he apparently had one hit in his entire career.
Right. All right. Well, so yeah, you know about as much as I do.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure where the connection is made there, but nonetheless, we continued, and Tiny Tim stayed completely positive to all of King's kind of rebuttals. So even though you could kind of barely hear him on the microphone when King would kind of put it to his mouth, you could tell that he wasn't really directly addressing kind of the comments that King was making. And finally, King asked him to sing, his hit tune for just a couple of seconds. Tim agrees, and as soon as Tiny Tim gets into it, Jerry the King Lawler pulls the mic back away. And he goes, all right, I got to ask you. He goes, Tiny Tim, is that your real voice, or is your underwear you're wearing just a little too tight? He says. Again, nice little dig by Jerry the King Lawler. I don't think Tiny Tim necessarily gets a chance to even answer, because King goes on to say, and ask him rather, when his career died specifically and what he even does these days. And this is where kind of the whole reasoning behind we got this segment is really Tiny Tim's here to promote some radio show appearance that he's doing. So he kind of gives the details when he'll be appearing on the show and all this stuff.
July 25th in Des Moines, Iowa.
Right. Yep. So it's basically a fly on the wall show. Like, it's not even a big thing. And King kind of addresses it as such. So he says, as soon as all the details are gone through and Tiny Tim's kind of said what he needed to say, King grabs the microphone back and he goes, if Tiny Tim gets on air, people will stop breathing it. So I was like, holy shit, King he's in rare form with this. It was a perfect guy to pair Jerry the King Lawler with, because Tiny Tim's so easy to, pick fun on.
Yeah.
And King does it in a very creative way these times here. So a chant of "We Want Bret" did break out at this point of the interview. And Tiny Tim says, wait a second. I just want to say in front of everybody here that you're no Burger King. And King is like, yeah, you see what I'm saying? You heard it from, Tiny Tim, this, world famous, musician. And Tiny Tim clarifies. He says he's no Burger King, but he sure is the Dairy Queen. And as soon as he gets that line out, he starts backing out of camera shot. Like he's backing away from Jerry Lawler. And King really started screaming at Tiny Tim. And he's kind of just tearing him down. He's saying, why don't you play the guitar like a real man instead of this little ukulele? And Tiny Tim is, I don't know if he's acting. I think he is, but he's like shaking. And he tells King it's because the ukulele is easier to handle. And King says, oh, okay. Well, let me handle that ukulele for a minute. He snatches it out of Tiny Tim's hands and in one foul swoop smashes it to pieces with one smash on the concrete floor. It was like automatically the thing was just incinerated. It exploded. This is where Tiny Tim kind of over dramatically drops to his knees. He's got tissues in his hand. He's like pretending to cry. He's holding his heart by the broken ukulele pieces. It was just so ridiculous. But that's kind of where the segment ends. We go into commercial there. And as much as I dislike King, some of the shit he was saying in this segment, I was genuinely laughing at because it was so quick and so on the nose that despite it being Tiny Tim and basically like who gives a fuck, King made something out of it. So it was. I thought it was a good segment. I thought that even as dramatic as Tiny Tim was, he served his purpose. He got his plug in and ended up looking like a fool like he was meant to. So, all things considered, I enjoyed this segment.
Well, I thought Jerry Lawler was phenomenal, and he was really great in the role.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I fucking hate Tiny Tim. He's by far the most annoying guy I've ever had to fucking listen to or watch. And his acting at the end when his ukulele got destroyed was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Because
it's brutal.
Yeah, he like even kind of like put his hands to his face, like made like the crying emotion, like twisting his hands to even emphasize that this is beyond awful acting.
Right.
So that part of it was just dreadful. Now, this doesn't really advance anything with Lawler and Brett. It just kind of makes Lawler look like a fucking dick, which he is. So it's perfect that he did this. But Tiny Tim, good lord, that is just brutal. He's a brutal guy to even listen to. I don't even know why he was on the show. I mean, I know he's got the radio show thing and he's had like a one-hit wonder, but it just seems like an out of place, like special guest, I guess, to have on.
Well, it's just another one of those go-to like C-list celebrities for the WWF at this point.
Right, because all the athletes they had. I mean, aside from like Scott Burrell, I mean, I don't even know who the fuck those guys were for the most part.
Right.
Well, coming out of that interesting trip, we get a WWF figures ad and then a WWF Royal Rumble video game ad. That leads us.
Yep, and it's it's the same one with Mr. Perfect. He's just kind of putting the game over. Yeah. Yep.
And that brings us to our main event of the evening. Is 1-2-3 Kid taking on Chris Duffy. Go ahead, Austin, on this one. I don't know what to do with it. I'm still kind of shaken up with my Tiny Tim.
Well, as Bob tiptoes through the tulips, I will go ahead and guide you through this this barn burner of a main event. So just to kind of cut right into the action here, the two barely locked up before Ted and IRS appeared at the entrance ramp. And Kid is kind of, he doesn't even really pay attention to it. Razor then hops the rail and he's standing ringside. So now we have kind of at the top of the ramp is Ted and IRS. And then total opposite of them, if you're looking through the hard cam, Razor Ramon's on that end of the ring. All the while the match is going on. So something's obviously being set up here. We get kind of like the tension is in the air. Not too much note-wise on the match. Kid was hitting some pretty good kicks, strikes all over Duffy in the ring. And again, really paid no attention to what was going on the outside, which I thought was good because it shows you that he's just that motivated guy who wants to have the best match he can. Again, kept it pretty basic though. and finished the match with his leg drop off the top. Ted and IRS looked pretty unimpressed, kind of shook their heads about 1-2-3 Kid. And once the match was over, 1-2-3 Kid didn't really know where to exit because really his two main foes or two kind of main opposing sides are blocking both of his exits. So he just says, screw it, and exits through the crowd. So he doesn't even bother going up the ramp or confronting Razor. He's just like, I'm out of here, and goes through the crowd. So at that point, we're just left with Ted and IRS and Razor, and Ramon taunts Ted and motion that the Kid was going to get him next week with a 1-2-3 count. He kind of slaps his hands in a 1-2-3 motion. He then toothpicked Ted right in the face and kind of egged him on to fight as the two were held apart, and we went to commercial. So as far as the match, not really too much to sink your teeth in. The whole point of this was to kind of set the stage for Ted versus Kid, and just throwing Razor in the mix again, coming off as kind of the cool, calm, collected guy who's like, go ahead, fight my adversary that beat me in a match. He's going to beat you just like he beat me, and if not quicker, you know. So I liked it. Not necessarily the match, but the angle and kind of where this is going. I think it's interesting that they're positioning Ted into the Razor Ramon 1-2-3 Kid angle itself, because I thought it was so strong. So now with Ted inserted, it's going to be interesting to see kind of where they go with that.
Yeah, I enjoyed the little squash match for Kid. He's one of the more enjoyable guys to watch. His offense is just so much more different than anybody else. And the aftermath too. I mean, it kind of gives it sort of cast doubt as if, is Ramon going to get along with Kid? Is this like is he looking out for the Kid? You don't know, because Kid just said, fuck it, I'm not dealing with either one of these guys.
Right.
So I'm just going to go through the crowd. So you're adding another layer to the story. I thought it was a pretty good segment and added some interest to the story.
For sure. Before
the show comes to an end here, Randy Savage is with a kid that is dressed like him. He's like standing on the commentary table.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about how Brett will be facing Bigelow next week and that Brett's family will be with him. Heenan claims that the kid is 40 years old and is a midget.
Well, even before that too. So when we first cut back to the commentary table, you see this kid, he's dressed like Savage. And all of a sudden, I thought it was somebody in the crowd, but you see bunny ears being put on the kid. And it's actually Bobby Heenan. And Vince gets pretty pissed off at him and is like, what does it matter with you? And he like slaps his hand away. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that Bobby's trying to make fun of this little kid right on camera. But yeah, we're just getting kind of a rundown of the next week. And that's kind of how we go off air.
No. That's not how we go off the air. We see the Lex Express traveling on the highway, and a car cuts right in front of the bus at a high speed.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you caught that. Well,
because like, what the fuck? Well, he could have killed Lex Luger before he ever got to SummerSlam.
You imagine if the bus swerved and pulled off the goddamn highway.
Oh my God, he cut right into the guy. Whoever's in the car. I might have to go back into it and like freeze frame it and try to zoom in and see who the fuck was driving it. Because that'd be a great way for Doink the Clown to be like, I pulled a prank and I killed Lex Luger and now I'm gonna go fight Yokozuna.
Could you imagine? Well, no, like you said, it's the last shot we get of the show. Yeah. And it's the Lex Express, it's on a busy highway, it's traveling the United States. And then all of a sudden you could tell the guy was like, you know what? Fuck this guy. And he does. It's like a maroon car pulls right in front of the bus and like speeds up. And I'm just thinking of the guy in this. He's definitely not in on the gag. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. He's probably seen this helicopter film this bus. And he's like, you know what? I don't have time for this bullshit. And he does. He pulls right out in front of him and speeds ahead. And it makes the bus kind of look like it's going pretty slow. So they're probably causing a little bit of traffic congestion with this. But it's hilarious. And it just adds to the whole Lex Luger comedy thing. Like now he's getting cut off in traffic. Like he's this big hero, but people don't have time to fucking wait for his ass on the highway. You know, it was great. It couldn't have been written any better.
I think the guy, whoever's in the car, is probably like, I don't know who the fuck this Lex guy thinks he is, and he's a fucking bus. But I got places to go.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious what he said.
I'm surprised they didn't cut that out.
Yeah, well, it's a total like unintentional like thing, but I thought it was so fucking funny.
Oh yeah.
The Lex Express got cut off right on the highway.
Yeah.
Gotta love that New York traffic.
Yeah.
So that does in fact wrap up the July 19th edition of Raw. I would say it was a pretty good show, aside from like the 12-minute window of the brutal Luger video package, Bastion Booger in the Tiny Tim segment. If you can survive that, then it's probably okay. Men on a Mission had a pretty good debut. Obviously, Shawn Jannetty was the best thing on the show. Yeah, the crowd was behind him pretty well. The Razor Money Incorporated segment, setting up that eventual feud, and Kid looking crisp as always in the ring. This felt like another quick watch, and stuff like this. Like every segment kind of served a purpose, whether it was good or bad. And when that happens, it makes Raw a pretty enjoyable show to sit through. So I enjoyed this week as well.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you for the most part. I would definitely say to our listeners to go ahead and go out of their way to watch this episode. It's kind of a nice time capsule of 93 for the previous couple of months we've seen. There's a little bit of ridiculousness. There's a little bit of really, really bad wrestle crap. There's a little bit of kind of future action that we're going to be seeing. There's angle development. There's good lines from, commentary. King's firing on all cylinders. We get some, decent interview time. It's a nice grab bag of everything that 93 has been so far. So with that in mind, I thought it was a very good show. I loved how much, story development we got in this episode. I think Razor comes off as an absolute star. I thought Marty and Shawn tore it up pretty well. Even if it wasn't their strongest of the three matches, it was still pretty good. The Lex Express stuff, it's going to be something moving forward. I'll tell you that. It'll be something. And to kind of see the genesis of it here, again, you got to just see it to believe it. The King's Court, again, probably worth watching just for the King portion of it. Not as much action as I'd usually like this week. Kind of similar, to last week. It was more or less squash matches. We got the lengthy matches with Shawn and Marty, but that was pretty much it for the show. But you know what? The story developments were worth it, I thought. And again, you get a little bit of everything this episode. So if you don't go out of your way to watch another one for a while, probably watch this one because you're going to get a nice dose of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I tend to agree with your statement there. I'm still kind of in shock with the whole Tiny Tim situation. I don't know if I'll ever recover.
Oh, God.
I don't know if I'll be able to. Maybe I should include a Tiny Tim song at the end of this episode instead of anything else.
No, you are my hero, please.
No, I'm not doing that this one. I'm not doing that this one. I think I'm going to do Men on a Mission. So by the time by the end of this, we'll get the I don't know the words or whatever they sing. I don't even think the theme song really has Oscar rapping, so it's probably just their beat. So.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So next week we'll be doing the 7/26 and 8/2 Raws. Of course, there'll be separate tapings and separate episodes. The only thing that we have announced, I believe, is this Brett Bigelow for 7/26, and then we get right into August. And when we get into August, I believe it would be 3 Raws, and I think I'm going to be able to send you the SummerSlam Spectacular through Google Drive. So I think if I can figure that out, we can be able to watch the full show, and we'll do the Spectacular and SummerSlam.
Perfect.
Taping as well. So we're getting pretty close to SummerSlam. I'm quite happy with how far we've managed to go without ripping our eyeballs out. Although Tiny Tim was close. I'll tell you that right now. That was pretty damn close to contemplating my life.
Yeah.
So, you have anything else for episode 30, the dirty 30 of ICOPOD, Austin?
Well, I feel so dirty. I should probably go take a shower after this week and last week. So if you enjoyed it, be sure to tune in next time. I'm sure the tomfoolery will only continue. But other than that, Bob, I think we're ready to go ahead and tiptoe our way out of here.
All right. Well, I guess that would mean there it is for you. And that means whoop. There it is. I'm Bob Conley Jr. for Austin Skinner. This has been ICOPOD.
And whoop, you gotta hear it.